Hello, hello. Welcome back to Cryptomentals. Just thought I'd fire up a live stream here. Haven't done one in a little while. I was going to make a video, but I'm just too lazy to get that organized. So just thought I'd hit stream and see what I come up with. But there's always a lot to talk about here in crypto. And today's no different. Altcoin's pretty much flat for the most part today. Nothing too exciting going on in Bitcoin. We'll look at Bitcoin here in a minute, but also more or less flat. Kind of dumped a little bit this morning and was bounced back a little bit here later in the day. Currently it's about, it's about 8 p.m. Eastern time right now. So a couple hours into the new candle for Friday, but it's Thursday evening at the moment. I got crypto bubbles up here on the screen, and you can kind of see this is the top 100 coins. Most things are, down less than 1% or so, and a couple things up a bit. World Liberty Fi, I want to talk about here in a minute. Quite the shit show that is the Taco Commander-in-Chief and his various crypto projects. And I don't know, it's debatable. Of course, the new administration has brought a lot of positive changes to crypto regulation without a doubt here in this new year. Things that I would generally call positive, like the Genius Act freeing up stablecoins a little bit. And actually, there's some other news even just more recently today. It may or may not be credited to him, but nonetheless, a lot of good things have come from the new administration, but not so sure him and his cronies' direct involvement in crypto is that great. Kind of been a shit show a bit here. With the most recent launch of World Liberty Fi was the project du jour. I guess it launched probably 2 days ago or 1 day ago. You can see it's showing 1.3% up on the day, but that's after getting pretty much destroyed on the open. And, it ripped up on the day. Let's just go right to old World Liberty Fi. Let's see, where do I want to look at that? I think it's pretty much listed everywhere now. I'll look at this Binance USDT chart. And it launched on the 1st, so Monday. And it did rip up right out the gate, and now it's pretty much gotten obliterated here the last few days. Kind of zoomed down to a 1 hour chart to get a look at it. And a couple of things. Well, first off, it's sitting at 19 cents here at the moment after finding a bottom at 16 cents. So it did catch a little bit of a bounce, but first off, the initial investors, all the cronies got in at 0.015, so 1.5 cents. So they're already still up. Even with price coming off here since the open, they're still up 10x plus. So keep that in mind if you're considering purchasing this thing. There's a big chunk of the initial investments long from way lower. And where do I even start with the World Liberty Fi? First off, there's some pretty funny news. Justin Sun, let me see if I can find it really quick. They blacklisted. First off, Justin Sun of Tron, of course, and other crypto fame, is the largest holder, I believe. And today they blacklisted his wallet. I guess, I don't know, maybe they were getting worried because everybody was selling off. Everybody was selling off the coin, and it was because it felt like 60-some% from the highs. And let me see. I think I was looking on Decrypt. I could find this anywhere, but hilariously earlier today, they, right here. First of all, this picture is just funny. It looks like that's not even his body or something. But I guess what's going on here is, I guess if there's a new grifter in town, the first thing you got to do is take out the old grifter. It was a battle between grifters. But nonetheless, I don't know, for whatever reason, World Liberty went and blacklisted Justin Sun's Ethereum wallet because he moved some millions in WLFI. And I guess they were worried about him dumping, but hilariously, I did think this was funny down here. Sun denied selling tokens in a message on X, claiming the transfers were just deposit tests. You know, you've made it when you're making $9 million deposit tests. But either way, they went and blacklisted him, so he couldn't move his coins. And it is a little scary that they can just turn on and off everybody. But welcome to. I mean, maybe they have that in their golden paper. Hilariously, World Liberty Financial has a golden paper. They don't even have a white paper. They, of course, in all in the vein of golden toilets and whatnot, they've got a gold paper here. And I don't know what the hell's up with World Liberty Financial, but there's a couple of funny things about it. Like, let's dial it up here on CoinGecko and just, first off, it was supposed to be. And I keep saying WLFI, World Liberty Financial is what it actually is. Now, when I first heard about this, it was supposed to be an Aave fork. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but it was originally an Aave fork. And one thing I find hilarious is that you can see the fully diluted valuation it's at 19 billion today. And it was as high as I don't know what it got to exactly, but it was at like 22 earlier. I mean, it got up to like 26, maybe even higher. Fully diluted valuation. And being an Aave fork, if that is the case, Aave is only like 5 billion, I think. So I mean, this thing's like 4 or 5 times the size of Aave. And Aave is sitting at 5 bill. So it's 4, 5, 6 times Aave. I don't know about that. And they haven't really made anything or done anything per se. They do have the USD1 stable coin, which is probably, I guess that's their product, and that could turn out to be pretty interesting, but I don't think they have a protocol running or anything at the moment. It's just the coin. So I think the short story is I'd be careful going and aping into this, keeping in mind, one, looking at the chart. I mean, I suppose you could argue there's some sort of head and shoulders-y kind of bottom that's not really a head and shoulders, but it's some sort of V bottom that's trying to come in now, and I guess I could see maybe people trying to take trades here and looking for a pop back up into the top of this range here. I kind of would see, maybe I'd ignore this big wick shooting up and kind of say the top of the range looks like up here at 28 cents. So I could see maybe playing a range trade, try to get something going up here. But at the moment, I don't see any real reason to go jumping in here. As far as like investing, I think you're asking to get run over here if you're going in and trying to load up here. Just keep in mind there's a lot of room to fall here where the original investors are still up quite a bit. So now you can kind of see how even from that top of that range that I just drew here, we're still probably about 30% down. And we did, fall 40% total from just those candle body highs here, not including that massive wick that did run up to like 47 cents. So I think there's probably better things to own here at the moment. I just let this thing settle down, and I don't have any, by the way. I haven't touched this thing, and I'm not planning on it. Keeping in mind things like Trump coin really hasn't performed. It kind of, it from the beginning ripped up also in the first few days of its existence, and then just was nothing but down after that. And it's basically down like 90% or so. So I think, I'd be wary of messing around with these, I think, at the moment. I don't see any great reason. Yeah, you can see Trump here. I mean, what happened here? Same kind of thing. Right out the gates, big rip up, but then it's just been nothing but down, and it's just been struggling to find a bottom. I did, I did step in here on Trump on this W, funny enough, and they didn't, and my target was, I was trying to bang a double out here. It was like 880. So my double's up here like 17, 18 bucks. And this was, remember the Trump luncheon or whatever the hell that was, which funny enough, I think Justin Sun's like Trump's biggest fan. He like gave Trump a bunch of money back here and went to that luncheon and whatever, got a free watch and whatever the hell happened. But they pumped it up into that, and then fucking front ran my, sell level, unfortunately, came all the way back down. And I have been nibbling again here. So, I mean, I'm not, I'm a fool enough to go after the official Trump meme. And maybe I'm a little bit scorned So I'm not, I don't know how, I'm not really ready to jump into World Liberty Fi yet, but just know that you're messing with the best of the best, the art of the deal. I don't know, just kind of a gross taste in my mouth, actually. And so that kind of begs the question, yeah, like, is Trump good for crypto or bad for crypto? Clearly, he's been pretty good in a lot of ways. Again, going back to the Genius Act, I think it was relatively positive for a lot of reasons. And it's kind of nice to see stablecoins have some regulatory guidance now, and I think you could credit that to him. And actually, there's a couple other cool things just more recently. I got some quick news stories from Grok up here on the, these are just things that hit the news in general. I just kind of dialed them in on old Grok here. But a couple cool things, like one, the SEC and CFTC, this week have greenlit like spot trading in certain, like, I think what this means is, basically, there's exchanges are kind of getting the green light to list certain crypto, like mostly Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I'm imagining the sort of bigger blue chip names. But I suppose this means that like maybe like the CME could list spot Bitcoin and stuff like that. So there's just a little bit more openness for regulation in terms of some US exchanges. And then the other one, which I think is really big news, is down here, this Polymarket gained CFTC approval. It's pretty cool that Polymarket, the prediction market, is now getting the green light to operate in the US again, which I think that's actually a huge positive step. Just because, that was something that was very much not allowed in the US previously. And I think just allowing Polymarket to operate kind of opens the doorway for a lot more openness in the US as far as crypto goes all around. And also in the news this week was they're basically green lighting, exchanges like Binance and other offshore exchanges, allowing them to operate potentially in the US again, which also is great news. And so maybe even, we might start seeing shitcoin trading on perps and stuff back in the US at some point. And to be fair, I have, if you're on Coinbase and Kraken, you've probably seen that, well, Coinbase fully has perps now, and they have, some sort of futures. I haven't really played with those much, but you can trade Bitcoin futures and a few other futures products. And then they now have perpetuals, which I haven't really actually jumped in on that stuff. I was kind of planning on playing around, but, haven't done it, and I'm not like in a huge rush to go trade, leverage on Coinbase. I'd probably prefer just mess around on Hyperliquid. And of course, if Binance could ever operate here, I think the Binance perps markets seem more appealing to me than jumping on Coinbase. But it's just kind of nice that those opportunities are there. And then of course, Kraken also opened up futures trading, but that was mostly for CME Bitcoin futures and stuff like that, I believe, which is funny because I got blocked on Kraken because I already have a NinjaTrader account. I thought that's funny. So they must be partnered up with NinjaTrader to trade CME futures. And so when I just kind of tried to get approved to trade on Kraken, they told me I couldn't, and I had to stay on NinjaTrader, which is hilarious because I don't trade on NinjaTrader. Actually, even more complicated. It was because I actually have a TradeEvade account, and I guess TradeEvade got bought out by NinjaTrader or vice versa. And so really, because I do have TradeEvade as a backup futures trading account that I don't really use these days, but I was using a few years ago. So yeah, I can't trade on Kraken. But anyway, that's a long story short. There's a lot more leverage trading coming to the U.S. And I do think that's another thing where Mr. Grifter in Chief, he's I think he's opened up the doorways for that. So there's a couple things there that's positive. But on the flip side, some of his actual interactions with the industry here, like things like this World Liberty Fi, we'll just have to see what happens here. I have my doubts. I think those things could actually end up being net negative, especially just considering, the valuation just got so high right at the gates on this World Liberty Fi. And I have a feeling it's going to kind of come crashing down. So, I'd be careful. It's going to probably suck up a lot of liquidity too in the process. So anyway, I'm not going to be touching World Liberty Fi unless we get a true, I'll take a shot if I saw something like maybe prices come off a lot, get down closer to that 1.5 cents, which is obviously way farther down, and then actually seeing some sort of rounded out W bottom or something. Then maybe I'll take a shot, but I think it's too early to say here. Just a few, 4 or 5 days into the launch, and no real idea what they're actually going to be doing. And there's a couple other things that are dramatic. Like I said, Aave, it's supposed to be a fork of Aave, and at one point they had like offered Aave like some of the revenue, and then maybe they repealed that after they realized how much money it was going to be. And then maybe they don't even end up forking Aave and they go a different route with their protocol whenever they do build it. I really don't know what's going on. But I thought that was pretty funny. And then also, if I remember correctly too, in the last few, they actually started buying, I think the World Liberty Fi actually started buying back coins somewhere in here trying to support the price. And they actually just, funny thing is they have no revenue. There's nothing happening here that's generating revenue. I suppose maybe there's some fees from trading. There has been a shit ton of volume on this thing. Like, what does CoinGecko say? Yeah, the 24-hour trading volume is 1.5 billion. So somebody's trading the shit out of this thing. Anyway, that's probably enough of old World Liberty Fi. Ironically, when I had this crypto bubbles up, it was the only big green one. Well, now it already turned to down 0.7. It was up 1 point something, and it was the biggest green bubble here. And so obviously it just got knocked back down a little bit. But I am seeing my stream's current bit rate is a little lower than the recommended. So I'll have to look into that. Part of this is just a practice stream. Hopefully it's actually coming through okay. Not really expecting anybody to even be watching here live. I haven't marketed or advertised this stuff, and I haven't been doing many YouTube videos lately. But what the hell? I'm just kind of doing one today. And in my sort of solo operation and laziness, I don't even have like my shit together at all. So more just like hit the record button and just start talking. I mean, I do pay attention to these markets every day. I'm in here trading every day too. So just sharing my opinions about some things and just see where it goes. Now you can see there's obviously a lot of red on the screen here in the top 100, but mostly flattish, like I was saying a minute ago. I will mention there's some things I see on here that I am interested in. Of course, Pump.Fun is one I'm really interested in at the moment. Talk about that here in a second. And I'm also really interested in this Aerodrome, which I think is harder to buy right here because it really ripped over the last few months. And I wasn't in on this Aero, but it is starting to come down, and I'm pretty interested in buying this if it can come down a little lower. And of course, this is Aerodrome Finance. It's the largest DEX on the base chain. And then Pump also I'm interested in. The main reason is, I'm basically pretty interested in sort of the revenue generating narrative. I think that's kind of like the narrative of the day at the moment is, you basically have Hyperliquid, which is just crushing it lately. And, they're doing crazy things like making like, an insane amount of money every month, but also like Hyperliquid's basically programmed in to buy back like 97% of the, take like 97% of their weekly revenue and buy back the token. And that's clearly pushing the price up, bringing demand into, buying pressure into the token. And Pump.Fun is also now doing that, but not as coded in like Hyperliquid. It's just part of the protocol. Pump is sort of taking a random approach. Like they did just, buy a shit ton of tokens back here recently. It was a significant chunk of their current revenue as well. And then Aerodrome's actually just kind of high up on the revenue. So I'm pretty interested in that, but I think I have those pulled up here. Revenue by protocol on DeFi Llama. Because interestingly enough, Pump.Fun actually surpassed Hyperliquid in the last 24 hours in revenue. And you can see here Tether and Circle, Tether and USDC basically are the top two revenue generators, which makes sense, all the stablecoin activity. But in terms of number 3 and number 4. Currently it's Pump is number 3 with, 2.54 million in 24-hour revenue, and Hyperliquid at 2.45 million. So like Pump just surpassed Hyperliquid a little bit. And now of course Hyperliquid's probably almost like the best thing going on in crypto at the moment. But the problem is it's a little hard to jump in Hyperliquid here at the levels that it's at. Now, I do think there's a good chance Hyperliquid continues higher, but I'm just going to pull it up on KuCoin for the hell of it. And I actually have a little swing long on Hyperliquid at the moment, but it's just kind of banging around here, the 44, 45 level. But let me zoom out a little bit and just, Now Hyperliquid, it gave an amazing opportunity back here in April to buy at $9 or $10 during the sort of kind of global sell-off during all the tariff drama in April, where the markets basically across the board all dumped. And that's just been straight up from there. So it's, it's a little trickier to step in as an investor on Hyperliquid here at $45, up 4.5x from the lows. But, it might keep grinding higher here. In fact, I think it's pretty likely. And like I said, I had a little swing long on here and I'm planning on trading that. I do have a bag. I was a little late to the game here. I'm more long from like $28. I just kind of aped in here because I wanted to own some, but I didn't have like a super great level. And now, I think really pullbacks into like the 38.2s area is kind of where I would consider new buys. So, in an ideal world, Hyperliquid would, maybe work its way down here and sort of get me some kind of bottom to work with. So like $34 or something, or $30 to $35. I don't want to chase into it right here for like a long-term investment type thing or cycle type investment. So anyway, point being, Hyperliquid's kind of run a little far, but Pump hasn't. And just to put into context here, I see now, of course, these are two Hyperliquid's sort of like, obviously like a on-chain exchange, and pump.fun is the launch pad for Solana meme coins. So they're not exactly in the same category, but they're close. Pump Fun does operate somewhat like a swap in a sense, or a DEX, but definitely different vein from Hyperliquid. But in the case of just revenue generating, these are the two most profitable businesses in crypto right now, it seems to me, Hyperliquid and pump.fun. And, Hyperliquid's got a 45 billion FTV, whereas pump.fun, I think, is like a tenth of that, if I remember correctly. Pump.fun is sitting at, 5 bill. So if pump.fun can catch up to Hyperliquid in terms of market cap, that's 10x almost, if I'm doing my math correctly. So a lot of upside in pump.fun. So, whereas Hyperliquid, you're chasing in here, pump.fun has rallied off the lows. Actually, I had a nice trade here too that I just took profits on. But it gave a nice bottom back here in like sort of late August, But the point I wanted to make is even sitting right here today at 0.004, the ICO price was 0.004. So the ICO, remember, sold out in like 12 minutes, and I think it was like $1 billion or something insane. I can't remember how much they raised in the ICO, but it was quite a lot of money, and that was at 0.004. So we're basically just sitting at that ICO price now, and to catch up to Hyperliquid, you're looking maybe, even we just say a 5x. That's only halfway to Hyperliquid, and so I think a 5x is reasonable here on pump.fun. Now, ideally, this thing cools down a bit, and I think now I'm gonna just hide my trade here. But I think, for one, there's kind of this big double bottom here. This is a 4-hour chart, so there's not a lot of data here on this is Kraken, but maybe there's a better place to look at this actually. But let's see. I don't think there really is. Maybe KuCoin. We could look at it on Dex Screener or something, but that's interesting. The actual W is broken out here on KuCoin. I think Kraken had like a big wick shooting up, which is some Kraken charts are kind of crappy for that reason. There's a lot, I notice a lot, Kraken's a little thinner in terms of volume, and sometimes they spike price a little higher, which is great if you're trying to get sells off, or even fills for that matter. And I do, being in the US, I do have Coinbase and Kraken, and I kind of prefer Kraken, but it is a little less volume. But nonetheless, on KuCoin here, you can see they actually made this W, which is pretty killer, actually. That's actually a weekly W, you can see a nice double bottom here. And of course, this initial sort of launch date pump, is now just a big wick looming out here going up to 0.006. So this is like 50% up here or so, just to get back to the original high here. But I think this thing could keep cranking. And so I actually like pump fun, even at this level, although I don't love the idea of aping in here. What I was going to say here is I'm like, in an ideal world, this thing will roll over again here. I'm kind of hoping for like weak September. Typically Septembers are kind of weak in the markets. And ideally we'd get another chance to buy this thing. And I think the approach that I'll take is just the same with basically all these names that have run a little far, is I'll basically hope for a pullback to the 38.2 zone here to 50% level. Some of you might know it as Collins Pump Chaser Zone. Brian Beamish learned this concept from a guy named Ray Bruchette. But the idea is, basically in an uptrending market at any moment, 38.2s are kind of like buy the dip opportunities, I'd say. And so if you have a strong trend like pumps in right here, higher highs and higher lows just ripping up, then any moves down into this orange box and any signs of bottoms down here suggest trend continuation, and really would suggest some sort of like ABCD. So if you're trying to frame a trade, like an ABCD type move is pretty common in markets to have sort of symmetrical upside move like this. Trend continuation. So, basically any kind of pullbacks into this 38.2, like, if we come down, work our way down here, and then get a sort of bottom in here, some kind of double bottom, that's kind of what I'm looking for the next leg higher. I don't want to chase in right here. I'm looking for the buy the dip moment. I mean, you could argue that's what happened right here, back in the past. I bet you that move, or let me move my, if we drew fibs, back here, if you would have done the same thing like this, you can see how the price just kind of made its way down and just bottomed right off 38.2s and then moved higher. That's the same idea. Sort of buy the dip, but I want to make sure it dips enough. So that's my first thought here is I'd love to buy a pump down in this level, which is like 0.0038 and below. And of course, if we don't get a bottom in here, then I'm going to hunt the next, sort of range trade idea. Like if we do fully crap out here, then any sort of moves down into this area, 61.8 to that's not what I wanted to do here. 61.8 to 78.6 is kind of my next interest. So that's kind of how I approach everything, by the way. So the whole thing is here, is this a strong uptrend that I can sneak in on a trend continuation ABCD type pattern? Oh man, I just trying to get rid of that damn little yellow dot. Is this trend continuation where the market stays strong? Maybe we get a weak September, pullbacks into this 38.2 to 0.5 area and load up here for a move higher and look for a new high down the road? Or do we come all the way down to like 0.003 and below? And that just sets up like sort of 2-to-1 type trades up to the top of the range. And then ultimately, I would like to sort of load bags I do have some that I'm holding just for the rest of the cycle, but I would like to keep adding to that bag for that potential 10x. So I'm doing two things here, kind of swing trading or position trading this thing, and then also trying to build a bag for that potential 10x to kind of catch up to Hyperliquid in terms of market cap. Now, will that happen? I have no idea. It's just kind of like Pump's got a few things going for it right now. They're pushing this stream and stuff hard lately. And I don't know, I might stream on Pump. Kind of want to stream on Pump.fun, but I haven't really looked into it that closely. And I don't know if I'm degenerate enough. I don't I'm not as cool as the young degenerate kids, but I thought about just streaming on Pump.fun, just doing the same thing I'm doing right here. We'll see if I do that. And of course, when you stream on Pump Fun, it basically creates a coin for you, and then people can trade your coin while you're streaming or just in general. So every stream, every stream has a coin tied to it, and you can kind of see like these market caps here, 300K, whatever. Damn it, what the fucking, that's annoying. Anyway, you can see people are in here streaming. I haven't seen too many trading streams. I haven't really looked a lot, but that could be me shirtless on my phone. That could work. I haven't seen people like talking charts so much. I'm sure it happens, but point being is they're just pushing the stream and stuff pretty hard, and that may or may not work for them, but I think they're kind of going after sort of the content creation sort of market and really trying to appeal to the creators themselves, because basically these people are earning money, right? Like even if it's just like $50 you're earning a stream, like some of these, the market caps on these guys are like 13K. It gets down to 7K here. So these are clearly not the hottest streams on Pump Fun, but then you'll get like people with higher market caps earning more. And I need to maybe I will try and do this sometime just to see how it goes. But point being, they're sort of pushing this along with just the classic create a meme coin that has earned them so much money here in the last year. They have just crushed it, making a fortune with as a platform for people to launch meme coins. So like, how big can this get? Maybe we don't, Hyperliquid has a bigger target market, and Hyperliquid has, like, for example, recently, there's people doing massive trades on Hyperliquid. There was like a couple weeks back or like a week ago where some whale came in and just swapped a shit ton of Bitcoin into Ethereum. Of course, that's sort of a bigger market. Like people, Hyperliquid is a serious trading platform that's starting to compete with like Binance and even surpass Binance potentially. So like, that's a little bit probably likely to stay bigger than Pump.fun. So maybe it's better to say like, well, even if we could just take back, catch up halfway, that's a solid 5x here. So it's probably enough said about Pump Fun, but lots of upside here. So, we're getting closer towards the end of the cycle, I think, or who knows how long the cycle will go for sure. But either way you slice it, we're probably closer. We're probably past the midpoint maybe. And point being is, I think, I don't know how much room there is for like a full on alt season where every piece of shit coin on the planet's going to rip. And I think so picking your coins wisely here for the rest of this cycle is crucial. And I think Pump.fun is actually one that's like high up on my list. So anyway, that's enough about old Pump Fun. What else I want to talk about? A couple other random news stories that I just found interesting that I don't think I have in here, but one is Galaxy, the Novogratz stock, Mike Novogratz, pretty big name in crypto and actually a cool company. Galaxy is a company that now trades on the NASDAQ. It's a Canadian company, run by Mike Novogratz, and you can see how it's quite, it's up quite a bit. I think I sold, I sold a good chunk of my bag from the bottom here at 5x. So it's already, it's moved quite a bit here. And most recently has made a little M top here. So actually kind of hoping for a pullback here to reload on Galaxy. But well, first off, the news story I was talking about is they just came out yesterday and said they're issuing shares on Solana. And I find that to be really cool because, of course, the whole real world asset kind of tokenized stock thing's a big narrative now. And, Robinhood's going after that hard. And there's other people trying to get in on that game. And the cool thing about Galaxy, though, is they're actually the first company that's directly issuing its own shares directly on Solana. So you're going to get real Galaxy shares on Solana. And that's the only thing that's the first time anybody's done that. Like, basically Robinhood's, if I understand correctly, is a little different where it's like they'll buy a big bag of the stock that they're going to issue, and then they'll issue that out on chain somewhere. And so you're sort of buying it secondary in a way. And I think there's going to be some issues with that because, there might be some, I don't know, like how does a dividend work, for example, if it's a dividend paying stock, if you're buying it like in a secondary market kind of thing. So I think ideally it'd be nice if stocks were directly issued from the company itself on the chain, and that's what Galaxy's doing. So I find that to be cool. And if anybody's going to do it, I think Galaxy's a good company to do that because they're already knee deep in crypto. I mean, they have several businesses in crypto. They're huge over the counter trading desk. They're involved in I think venture investing and also just market making, and they also have a data center that they do some mining at, but they've also been pivoting into AI. So they have an AI data center, which is interesting too. I do like the idea of owning Galaxy, but it's a little high up here now. So kind of same idea that I was just saying on pumped. I mean, all of these are just simple technical analysis, I think keeps you out of trouble. Same kind of thing is like, you can see how we're almost down into 38.2. So I suppose trend continuation trades you could think about in the $20 area. One thing I didn't say about those trend continuation trades earlier is that's based on the idea that you're willing to walk away too. These are like, using a stop kind of trades. So if you're setting up one of these trend continuation trades, it's a good idea if you have a point of failure where you're just going to walk away. That's a trade. That's not like a sort of like buy it and hold it to zero kind of thing and hope it goes up. Those sort of risk to zero type trades, I think you got to wait for deeper pullbacks like 14 and below. So, but point being, maybe there's an opportunity in the future here on Galaxy, but this thing I wonder what's the market cap of Galaxy. But I do find it cool that they're issuing shares on chain, and they did choose Solana and not Ethereum to issue these shares, which I think is interesting. So they must have felt like Solana was the better place for that, and I tend to agree. The ETH maxis aren't going to like that so much, but with all this talk of Ethereum being sort of the institutional chain and stuff, it's interesting to see Galaxy say, fuck that, we're going to go on Solana. Yeah, that seems to make sense to me. And of course, Solana already has like the X stocks or whatever, but like those, for example, I don't think like if you're buying Tesla on Solana right now, you're not actually buying real Tesla shares. You're buying like a derivative sort of Tesla shares. And so you're just, you're taking advantage of the price movement in Tesla, but it's not like you can redeem that as a Tesla share, I don't believe. And I don't know who owns, I suppose whoever, I don't know, don't quote me on X stock. I haven't looked into it, but I imagine they're buying, you'd think they're like bag holding a bunch of Tesla and market making it or something. I don't know how it works, but I'd be a little weary of that. And of course, me being in the United States, it's just better for me to go buy Tesla on my Robinhood account or my Interactive Brokers account. But if you're not in the US, then it makes accessing these stocks a lot easier. Just kind of know what you're getting into. Like what happens if, like, is there potential for depegging, for example? Like, is the price going to be wildly different? Things like that. Nonetheless, I was just going to look at the market cap here of Galaxy's $4 billion. Wow, they're carrying a fair bit of debt, 2.6 debt to equity, and not really making money, huh? Like, looks like their EPS is minus 165% this year. So not really making money, but has a lot of upside potential in the future. They are like carving out quite a chunk of crypto for themselves. And of course, Mike Novogratz is like sort of billionaire hedge fund trader that turned crypto maniac, and he has the Luna tattoo. Remember, he was really deep in the Luna madness of last cycle and probably got his hair cut pretty good on that. And who knows, he was probably so much in the profit that maybe he didn't get knocked down too much from Luna, but he was a mega Luna shill. And so he probably got that covered up with the Solana logo now or something. But he's, I kind of like Novogratz. And I've been trading this since back when it was just in Canada last cycle, and then now they're on the NASDAQ. And of course, now they'll be on Solana. So pretty interesting stock to watch going forward. I think, like, in terms of like, if you're the type of person that wants to have like a retirement account with some crypto exposure in it, I definitely like the idea of owning Galaxy. like into the next like decade, just probably try to time your purchases a little better than just aping in right here. Because I mean, just kind of to mention here, if I go to a daily chart, hopefully you can see something that I don't think is a great sign for Galaxy, and that's just this M top here. So probably you can see how price is falling apart here at the moment. Maybe we get another chance to buy Galaxy in the future. And that said, crypto stocks in general don't look great, which is, in the bigger picture, obviously Bitcoin's kind of coming off, and Ethereum sort of got rejected at the all-time highs and is coming off, and September is not typically a good month. Crypto stocks look like shit. And so everything's kind of looking heavy at the moment, but I am still thinking there's going to be a run up into the end of the year and maybe early next year. Who knows? I think there's going to be one last hurrah in this cycle. So I think now's a good time to be paying attention and trying to find trade entries for, in September going into the end of the year. And of course, mid-September, we have a potential interest rate cut. It's looking pretty likely. I don't know how great of an impact that first cut's going to be. It looks like it's pretty likely they'll cut 25 basis points, but I think the odds are set at like 90% at the moment, as a matter of fact. And the jobs numbers came out today that were a little bit weak as well. And that's just another sort of like notch in the bedpost for interest rate cuts. And everybody's hoping for them. And I don't know how much it's going to juice the markets, but in theory, that's a positive. That's some gas in the tank for an uppy market, but we'll see what happens. But I think in general, we should probably have a relatively positive end of the year. And if we don't, then all this stuff just might fall apart from here. Like, might as well back up a little bit and go to Bitcoin. Mention Galaxy. Can't remember if there's any other news stories I wanted to mention. Oh, well, that's not really worth talking about. It was kind of funny. Brian Armstrong, Coinbase, came out yesterday announcing that over 40% of the platform's code is AI generated, and he wants to get to a goal of 50% by October. It's kind of one of those thoughts that probably should have been kept to himself. I don't know if that's the best way to shill your company, but nonetheless, Coinbase is going to be AI. So the next time they lose your data, like they recently did, I get Coinbase scam texts. I got one today, your withdrawal code is blah, blah, you get these because Coinbase lost everybody's data a few months back. And of course, the next time they do it, you can feel good about knowing that some AI gave your data to all the shady people on this planet. So I don't know, kind of a funny thing to tweet out, but nonetheless, it's what he did. And before I get into Bitcoin, let's just look at Coinbase, because I don't look at it that often. And stocks kind of sort of fell apart here, like a lot of things, after making a high of $450 or so in July. And Coinbase isn't my favorite buy at the moment, to be honest, although I do think clearly they've carved out quite a space for themselves in the crypto industry, and they're kind of going for this sort of everything app kind of platform, and Base Chain is actually launching sort of like social media now. They have a big new kind of wallet update coming where they're basically going after everything. There's like social media involved that's based on Barcaster, and then they have, I think it's called Zora, right, which is their own launch pad, and blah blah blah. So there a lot happening with Coinbase, but as far as owning the stock, it's all good, but I don't want to pay up like this. I did buy some Coinbase. I actually, funny enough, bought like I paid like $48, I thought, for it, but yeah, like I bought right before. I bought that W right there. Yeah. Or wait, I guess it was that one, $60. Fuck, I can't even remember. And then I sold on a double, and I have a free position now, but that's it. Actually, I remember I bought right before that big dump, actually. So, because I remember getting run the fuck over right after I bought it. But nonetheless, now you can see how we're actually almost coming into that 38.2 after sort of a very choppy run up. Personally, with Coinbase, I think I'd rather wait till down here at 190 and below. I'm not really too interested in trading this thing. If I get another chance, like ideally it'd be all the way back down to like 80, and that might even take till next cycle, which is fine with me, till the next bear market, because ideally $87 here, down against this bottom would be sort of where I want to buy Coinbase. And my main reason for that is, God, I kind of got off track. I was going to talk about Bitcoin, but what the hell? It's fun to just, I haven't really looked at Coinbase in a while. I don't really love, what can I say about Coinbase here? One, the market cap's quite a bit larger, 78 billion. So it's, can Coinbase become a $1 trillion company down the road? It probably can, actually. I mean, there's going to be a lot more $1 trillion market cap companies, I think, heading forward into the future. But so I suppose if you're playing that long game, maybe that works for you if you're young and you want to ride this thing into retirement. I suppose it's not the worst idea, but I just think Coinbase is going to have a lot of competition going forward. It's going to be a rat race here, and just Robinhood alone, they're going to be both going after this same market. And then, of course, as time moves on, we're basically moving into a world where, God, you're going to be able to buy a stock everywhere, or any kind of financial product is going to be, basically we're at this turning point in crypto where it's like crypto's becoming institutionalized, or the technology at least is being absorbed by the finance world. And I think in the next 5 years, you're going to find, all stocks are tokenized and bonds are tokenized and everything's going to be tokenized, and you can just buy anything from everywhere, and you'll have any old wallet, whether it's Phantom or Rabby or just Robinhood or Coinbase, or there's just going to be, it's not going to be that hard to buy assets in a million different places. And so I think a company like Coinbase is going to really have a lot of, they're going to have to really, I don't know, do something wildly interesting to captivate everybody and keep people's business. Because at the moment, I'm a happy Coinbase user, but the fees are kind of high. It's not the best place to buy crypto. If you're already savvy, then there's better places to go buy crypto assets. So we'll see, but it's not my favorite trade. I'd be more interested in something like Galaxy, to be honest, that's smaller in market cap at the moment and also has a lot more sort of maneuverability, and they're kind of into sort of more interesting things, in my opinion. And there's other crypto stocks that I prefer to, so maybe I'll get into that some other day. Coinbase isn't my favorite, so I do think a deeper pullback, and it's kind of a no-brainer buy if it comes all the way back down to the bottom of the range. But for now, I don't know. I'm not too interested in old Coinbase. Anyhow, back to Bitcoin. I've already been going about 47 minutes. I was trying to keep this an hour, so I'll just probably wrap up with talking about some of the majors here and call it a day. So let's see. I made a video about a week ago about, or it was actually on this red bar down here on August 29th, the day Bitcoin sort of crapped out here, and I basically just said I think this megaphone, which is kind of an ugly pattern and difficult to trade, is in effect. We don't really have a real market structure top here, and we also don't have a bottom yet, and price has just been sort of collapsing ever since kind of FU to a new all-time high. We basically took out the old all-time high from back in July and just sort of ticked above and then crapped out. And I think this was right here was when that mega whale came in on Hyperliquid, I think, and just swapped a shit ton of Bitcoin to ETH, if I remember correctly. But nonetheless, it sort of set up this sort of megaphone, which is basically not higher highs and higher lows or lower highs and lower lows. It's just sort of like higher highs and lower lows, And so I have this trend line drawn off these two lows here. And you could see how we didn't quite hit it a few days ago. I'm still looking for this 38.2 tag. You can kind of see how I drew a potential head and shoulders here. And, it's kind of actually coming in still. And we did get kind of a bounce here the last several days after not quite hitting my trend line. But you can see we're rolling over again with the potential little 3-bar top here if price keeps crapping out. And we got the Fed meeting on the 16th and 17th, I think. And so that's 12 days away, 13 days away, the interest rate announcement. And I wouldn't be surprised. And I think you might even think it's better, or I would say it's better to just dump into that event, and then they cut rates and we'll probably see an upside on the other side. Kind of like sell the rumor kind of event and then buy the news. And so things seem to be progressing along. I wouldn't be surprised to see a dump down against this trend line at some point, whether that's, definitely like a 38.2 tag. Because remember, I was saying this 38.2 zone, anytime you have an uptrend in progress, it's not uncommon to see a dip down into that zone. And that's the buy the dip level, of course. Like, again, you could probably see it even right here. Like, did we hit it? Yeah, see how they basically didn't quite hit it, but you can see how that was a very strong market at the moment, but it tried to just dip down into that 38.2 and almost tagged it before ripping up. So very, very interesting level to watch going forward. So I'm still expecting a rollover into that level and then some sort of double bottom down in this area. And I wouldn't be surprised if we dump down into there into the middle of the month. Maybe even keep dumping through September, who knows? But basically somewhere along this bottom trend line is where I'm looking for a bottom, which I think sets up the next position trade long into the end of the year. Now, the sad part is if you draw these trend lines off the top, that means I drew it here to like October, and that's only 127,000. So, I mean, there's going to be some amount of resistance up here. So hopefully the upside's not capped at like 130, but it's very well possible that maybe this cycle we only get to 130. I was hoping for higher. Well, everybody's hoping for higher, I'd imagine. I was thinking higher, but I'm not really trying to make top predictions. But nonetheless, if this is in fact a megaphone, then the real way the megaphone's set up is actually on the third tag. So this is actually a short setup, to be honest, because you'd have 1, 2, and 3. This tag would be where you'd be looking for an M to short. So, I do think trading the long on this side is fine. That's the third tag on the bottom. So, W down here and then a M up here for the short. So, we'll see if we can, what the market looks like as this is quite a ways in the future, but, as we come up against this trend line here, then that might be it for the cycle, but we'll see. Nonetheless, next buying opportunity, in my opinion, is down here at 105,390 and below. So we'll see if that comes in or not. And then Ethereum, of course, Ethereum was all the rage here for the last few months, wildly outperforming Bitcoin. And right now, just kind of ugly, to be honest. I mean, I don't love that we barely just, let me go out to like a weekly chart. We didn't really show any strength above the all-time highs. In fact, we just got a wick shooting up there. And basically just crapped the hell out right after moving to an all-time high. We did spend 2 days, if I zoom in, you can see how we ticked above the first day and crapped out, then just an ugly kind of empire-y top looking candle on August 24th, and then fell apart again, and we've just been trending down ever since. Not a great sign, kind of ugly. I don't know if I'm not seeing the same kind of megaphone pattern, but I suppose you could kind of see the same idea. It's not really as clean, but yeah, there's maybe like a trend line off there somehow, and when we're kind of getting down into the bottom of this trend line would be the bottom. That kind of makes sense to me, although I don't really see the same megaphone. Unfortunately, what I do see is 38.2 being quite a bit lower. So that would suggest quite a dump, like Ethereum, again, that could happen for sure. At any time, like these sort of uptrends can come all the way back down to 38.2. And that's a 3,500, 3,600. Sort of hard to see right now. I get that like everybody that's all rah bull is going to be like, no way that's going to happen. But really, I would almost argue that's better. It'd be nice to just see a big dump and freak everybody out and wash out all the longs that are sort of levered up here, if there's any left, and just get rid of all of them before moving higher. That would freak everybody out pretty hard. And I'm sure there's a lot of buying pressure waiting. I'm sure there's a lot of buying interest waiting for Ethereum to dip. And so I'd almost prefer to just see this thing fall apart, come all the way back down to 3,600, and then set up a new leg higher to actually bust through these all-time highs in sort of more strength than what's happening here. This is Coinbase, but you can kind of see how there was some volume, a little bit of volume interest into that all-time high, but really nothing too crazy. And we're also kind of losing volume here. That's probably pretty faint on the screen for you guys, but you can kind of see how there's just not that much volume here. There's not like big chunky green bars building up here, suggesting that buyers are really stepping up. And actually, while I have these other indicators on the screen, hopefully you can see that there's massive divergences here, especially like in RSI. You have RSI making a lower high there, and now actually starting to crap out and lose this low back here, and also lose the 50 line. So that's not a great sign. Like that kind of suggests maybe RSI has to come all the way back down into oversold, which is going to suggest that dump down to the 38.2s. So I can't say it looks amazing. If anything, I kind of, now that I'm zoomed out here, I sort of see like a head and shoulders. So like, that's the left shoulder and then the head. And now we're in the process of coming down into the neckline, which would just be to there and then a bounce. So like, I think watching this low here at 44,062-ish, looking for a bounce down at that area would be one area of interest. Only problem with that is that kind of sets up the right shoulder, which means we might have to crap out, and then probably the target's more down like here at the 50% level at 3,100 and 3,200. So I don't know. That's sort of like a less desirable setup. I'd rather just, like I said earlier, just have it fucking capitulate here down into 38.2 and not set up a head and shoulders, because that's a topping pattern. If it just sort of dumps down, that's not really, there's no market structure top, in my opinion. There's just sort of like higher highs and higher lows still. And if we could set up a new higher low in this 38.2 area, that sets up a stronger leg higher. So that's what I'm hoping for. And we'll just see what happens. Move on to Solana, Solana's been a little stronger of late. I don't think there's anything to get super excited about right here as far as new buys, because we're kind of coming up. You can see how I have like a reload zone, short zone up here in this red box. We came up and almost hit 61.8 of that range, and now we're kind of crapping out. So that's not a great sign, but Solana was showing some strength here recently, like kind of starting back in like end of August, kind of ripped up into that 61.8 and now getting knocked back. And I think there's somewhat of a rotation from Ethereum into Solana, and you're starting to hear about the Solana DATs, digital asset treasury companies, kind of maybe bringing in a little bit of buying pressure and just sort of helping that transition into Solana. I think that was sort of like a mini narrative that was trying to get some steam behind it the last couple of weeks. Looking at this chart here at the moment, it sort of seems like it's running out of steam a little bit. I do see divergences in MACD and RSI, and kind of potential M top here if we lose this low here at 194. You're going to have basically an M top. So, not great. But you can see I have a 38.2 box drawn down here too. That's from a 172 down to 156. And that's sort of the area that I think Solana might dump into down in here into September, assuming we get kind of a weak September. Maybe Ethereum and Solana both just really crap out here into these boxes, set up W's to push higher. That's ideal to me. That would be the cleanest way to set up a bull run into the end of the year. So I'm looking for that in Solana too. And so let's see, I've been going almost an hour here, so I'm just going to wrap this up. But I guess I could end just with one buy opportunity. I did just get filled on this Cyber, which is something that's just a shit coin that I find kind of interesting. And actually, this was one of those Kraken examples where I did get a fill, but Binance hasn't hit the level yet here, but it did on Kraken today. Or maybe that was last night, actually. Anyway, I bought this W here in this area and banged a double out here. And of course, my basic investment strategy with shitcoins is I like to sell halves on doubles. I'm a big fan of Brian Beamish from therationalinvestor.com's little old lady risk management strategy. So I'm basically just trying to buy these things cheap, and then when they double in price, I sell half my position to just get a free position on the remaining. And that's where I'm sitting here with Cyber. I think I have it on this chart, yeah, you can see how I bought. Here is my average cost. I sold half on a double. I had another seller working up here, never went up there. And now we've come back down and I've rebought my second car. So I'm basically just repeating this again on Cyber. And I think Binance's chart's a little cleaner. You can see how point being, I want to buy this W breakout here. I think there's a lot of support right at that breakout level. So it's $1.64. And you can see how price just come all the way back down. Now, to be fair, like, I mean, sometimes these, well, let me draw some fibs here too. And you can see how 78.6 is a nice cheapy fib level. You know, basically 78.6 to 88.6 is sort of like the cheapy zone that I like to hunt shitcoins in. Sometimes I call it the deep sea. But anyway, that box down there is sort of, that's, you know, basically suggesting the price has come off 78% plus. And anytime I can find that zone line up with the previous double bottom breakout like this, this is one of probably my favorite setup, actually, and my most profitable investment setup over the years, especially for altcoins. You know, basically you're looking for a double bottom breakout and you're drawing your fibs and you're just basically trying to line that W up with 78.6. And at the rationalinvestor.com, that's a setup known as the shark. And it works really well. And anyway, so I see that coming in here on Cyber. So I have, you know, my order was working at that level, and on Kraken it did get hit, but on Binance it hasn't been hit yet, which makes me suggest it makes me think there's still more down, because I think there's probably more activity on Binance than on Kraken. But nonetheless, we're probably coming into that area. Now, it doesn't mean, you know, on occasion it'll just rip right from that level. I mean, if, you know, considering we're heading into sort of a weaker looking market into the Fed meeting, it seems to me, then I don't really expect that to happen, but you never know. But I do, you know, think likely we'll move around, maybe even come lower, but ultimately W again somewhere down the road. And so if you want to time your purchase better, you know, you could always wait for a W. You might get a better level. I'm just taking a nibble here as it came down into that level. And like I said, that's my second car here that I'm adding on to my original free position. And Cyber is just kind of interesting to me. Now, I don't know tons about it. It's sort of a shit coin, but just real quick, it's got like an AI type platform going for it. I do kind of want to try, well, let me just real quick. Now, it has an FDV of 176 million, which puts it at like, it's number 565. So it's definitely like a low mid cap kind of thing. Does have a 86 mil market cap, so the FDV's twice that. So that must, there's a bunch of coins locked up still. So I don't know how much selling pressure those coins are creating by an unlock schedule. I haven't really looked into that, but nonetheless, the market cap's you know, it's like middle low ish, and I do think there's plenty of upside here, especially when you look at the chart. You know, maybe even just use a nice conservative 50% level target here, heading into the end of this cycle at $8. So if you're buying it around $1.60, I think a move back to $8 is possible. So that's a nice move. So that's kind of what I'm looking for here. And keep in mind, that's just a move back to the middle of this range, going back to the March 24 highs. And that was, geez, March of 2024 wasn't that long ago. It was a year and a half ago. So if we could just take back half that range, and it might just be a big wick, you know, you have your sell order working, and there might just be one day where this thing rips up into that level. I think that's a super reasonable trade, to be honest. Like, I mean, yeah, sure. Like Hyperliquid's a much more, name of the day. Everybody loves Hyperliquid, but Hyperliquid's up at the highs. You know, there's not as much upside. It's going to be hard to bang out a 4 or 5x on Hyperliquid this cycle. I think when you're buying at $45 right now, at the top of its range, you know, basically up at all-time highs. But this thing, you know, a year and a half ago was up at $15. So could you just take half that back and, you know, basically a move back to the 50% levels, about 400%? Seems like a pretty good trade to me. And that's only going to put the market cap at, you know, what was that, 176, or what was it, 176 million times 4. So yeah, you're not even, you know, get up to 500 or 600 million. Seems super doable. And the last thing I'll say about this, there's just kind of, I haven't tried this, but I do find it interesting. This, they have a web browser that's AI for crypto called Surf. Yeah, this, your AI Copilot. I kind of want to try that, but it's only for Mac OS, and so I got to get it on my laptop. And maybe I'll report back on this one of these days if I try it. But basically, yeah, like they have this Surf Lite, which is basically an AI. I imagine it's like an LLM for crypto research. So I wonder if that's cool or not, but definitely sounds interesting to me. And then there's some other things going on for it too. But it's basically an L2 that has some sort of AI and social media spin to it. Don't know much about it, but it does seem interesting to me. And I think it basically just trades on, seems very US based actually, because it's trading on Coinbase and Kraken. I guess it is on Binance too. Looks like, how much volume is it doing in general? It's doing 16 million volume over the last 24 hours. It's pretty good. So anyway, that's my only, the only buy idea I have today. Well, I mean, I still have Pump. I really like buying Pump, but of course it needs a little bit of a pullback to go buy Pump. But this is actually getting really close to buy levels right now. So I think that's the idea I'll end with today. Of course, this isn't like financial advice. I'm buying this thing and I'm taking managed risk. I'm not putting myself in any position to get destroyed on cyber. I'm just taking a small bet and see if it pays off here in the end. And what I'll leave with is just, I do think it's the coin pickers market. It's becoming increasingly more difficult to pick these names. Everybody wants to know if alt season's coming. I don't know. I think we're kind of in alt season already. It's just that it's only for some alts like Hyperliquid. There's just, and of course Ethereum sort of took the steam out of everything the last few months. So I think the days of just everything going up are over, to be honest. I think the whole meme coins and Solana and Pump, ironically Pump.fun, basically making it so that there's 1 million coins created every day. I think that really sucks up the liquidity and spreads it out across a bunch of shit coins. And that makes it more difficult to just expect some sort of like everything goes nutso season that's happened. Like when I first got into crypto was when I first got into trading crypto was basically 2017. And, back then it was like everything like went up and there was only like 1,000 coins. There was basically like 1,000 tradable coins and basically everything went up. I remember a friend of mine at the time did a study and it was like every coin at least doubled in that cycle. And there wasn't any coins that didn't at least double off the lows. And I think that's sort of true today if you caught the exact bottoms on everything, which is impossible, but probably still a lot of things that have at least doubled off the bottom. But the point is it's not like you can just go and spray and pray and buy every altcoin and expect them all to go up. I think it's getting a little more difficult. So something like this cyber I take with a grain of salt. This thing might be a complete piece of shit and let down. So I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I do think it's got a reasonable chance. And of course, if you are more conservative, then just wait for the W. You can see like this W came in and this pop was the result. That's exactly, like I can't actually think of a better chart. I mean, that's perfect. This nice wide W, that's exactly what you want to see. So if you want to just wait for that again, in whatever fashion it comes in, that's sort of the conservative approach. If you're a little more certain you want to buy this thing, then you can just go in and hit the level like I'm doing. And that's up to you. So again, I'm not telling anybody what to do. That's just how I'm looking at the markets. And what I will say, the only financial advice I will give is, go do some back testing, go look for these kind of W's and see what happens on the other end and see if you could create a situation where maybe you buy W's. And I would imagine if you find W's in good trade location, 50, 60 plus % of the time you'll get a positive result. And that's plenty to do well. So in fact, you can find me on Twitter. My name is Double Uses, which is actually just a funky way of saying W's because you can't really say W's in plural. And so that name is created because basically that's all I've ever done. I just kind of look for these W's. And there's a bunch of different ways you can apply this. This is sort of a weekly chart. And so weekly W's are a nice long-term investment. Hell, let me just go back to Galaxy really quick because I just remember the nice W's coming in here. Like, look at that. That was a pretty nice time to be a buyer of Galaxy, right? And you can kind of see how it even came in as like a triple bottom. But, even like this breakout here and then the pullback into this area, That's an awesome place to consider buying. Now, you add in one more indicator. Remember, I said good trade location, and I like to use Fibonacci retracements. And so if you can find W's that are in good trade location, and good trade location, I would say, is, you remember I was talking about the deep C, 78.6 to 88.6. You can see how this W came in actually below 88.6, so nice and cheap. That's 88.6 right there. And you can kind of see how the breakout level ended up lining up perfectly with 88.6. And you can see what happened on the other side. So that's a nice simple setup to keep in mind, especially for investment trading. But you can apply this idea on any time frame. So the double bottom is always a good one. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Guess I got an hour and 10 minutes, so I went 10 minutes over my hour, rambling around. Hey, there's David in here actually too. So I did that. What's up, David? Yeah. I don't even know if you're still listening, but I'm done now. Yeah, and I'll do some more of these. I just kind of hit the record button and started streaming away. So hopefully I said something worth talking about and or worth listening to. And I'll talk to y'all soon. And yeah, send me a message sometime, David, or I'll link up with you. I don't know. Well, you know where to find me. So see you guys later. Take it easy.